Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us for CalRecycle's December public meeting. I'm CalRecycle's Communication Director, Maria West. Today's live update aims to serve Californians with accessible, plain language information about CalRecycle programs and actions. We are simulcasting today's meeting in both English and Spanish as we work to expand access to CalRecycle's updates. You can find a link to the Spanish broadcast by clicking on the public meeting notice at the top of the calrecycle.ca.gov page. As a quick reminder, you can submit a public comment on an agenda item in two ways. If you're here in person, you can use one of our meeting room microphones. If you're joining us remotely, you can submit a comment using the public comments portal. Just go to CalRecycle's homepage and click on the public meeting web banner at the top of our site. You'll also find links to today's agenda, slides, and the public meeting live stream. We'll address public comments a little later. Our first agenda item today is the director's report. Director Rachel Mackey-Wagner joins us now with some important updates. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning, Maria, and good morning to all of you joining us in person and remotely, and a very happy holidays to everybody joining us today. I want to start with just outlining for everyone, and it's very timely as we're heading into the end of the year, that we will be releasing our State of Disposal and Recycling report today if it has not already been released. As we noted in November's meeting, some initial statistics related to that. You will get further data with that release of that report today. It shows that California has sent about 41 million tons of material to landfills and other disposal-related activities in 2021. About 30 million tons of material was recycled or source reduced, leaving California with about a 40% recycling rate for 2021. While that is not where we would like to be or where the statute and the legislature has asked us to be, we see a lot of opportunity for new industries, new jobs, and new California-made products as we move towards a fully circular economy that recognizes waste as a resource. As all of you know, this year Governor Newsom and the legislature moved to cut single-use trash with laws to make products recyclable and requiring industry to collect and recycle their own products, from the passage of SB 54 that deals with plastic and other packaging waste, to our new battery EPR program, the expansion of our e-waste program, the expansion in our beverage container recycling program, and moves to make further investments in our organic recovery and recycling programs. So while we have a lot of work to do, I am very confident that we are going to be able to achieve and surpass the goals that have been set for us because of the investments and the partnerships that we have built and continue to build to this day. California is building the nation's first circular economy that remanufactures recyclables instead of shipping them overseas. And we see a great deal of opportunity in the industries that we can build here. By changing how we produce and consume resources, we're going to be adding over $140 billion of value to our economy here in the state, creating over 100,000 new jobs and cutting climate pollution, equaling more than 1 million cars. This is an incredibly important task that we have in front of us, and we look forward to working with all of our partners across the various industries, from manufacturing to recycling to collections, to figuring out how can we truly start to move away from landfilling as our solution to a fully circular economy that recognizes waste as not a necessary byproduct, but a resource to fuel our economy. Today, we will also be hearing about further progress in our cleanup in the Siskiyou County fire, which we are very proud of that work, but further goes to the importance of the mandate that we have in front of us and the recognition that we make every day to fighting climate change as a part of our mandate, and seeing the progress that we are making in debris removal. As proud as we are of that work, we really need to do an expansion of our programs to further acknowledge and achieve climate emissions reductions. And with that, I will turn it back over to Maria.
Thanks, Rachel. Next on the agenda is an update on state-managed wildfire cleanups. Last month, we met Denise and Chester Hopkins, residents of the historic Lincoln Heights neighborhood in Weed. They lost their home in the mill fire. Take a look at the cleanup progress on their property over the past 30 days.
Here in Siskiyou County, the historic Lincoln Heights neighborhood was one of many communities devastated by wildfire this year.
My grandfather came here in the 1920s and worked at the mill. I'm 65, so I grew up here. I knew almost every family in the neighborhood.
The state managed and funded debris removal program is helping survivors get back on their property. Crews have safely removed the ash and debris from the Hopkins property. Next is testing the soil from contaminants to protect the Hopkins and others in Lincoln Heights who want to rebuild.
This is home, and like I said, we grew up in this neighborhood and we've been here for all this time, so we got to come back and, enjoy where we started.
Track our progress at calrecycle.ca.gov.
We'd like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Hopkins for sharing their story with us. Deputy Director Tina Walker now has an update on state-managed wildfire cleanup operations. Good morning, Tina.
Thanks, Maria. Good morning. CalRecycle's debris removal operations in Siskiyou County continue at a quick pace, with the incident management team working around snow and rain to keep debris removal crews productive. Overall, 69% of enrolled properties in Siskiyou County have been cleared of ash and debris, including 86% of properties burned by the mill fire and 51% of the more remote properties impacted by the McKinney fire. We have one very large residential parcel in the mountain fire burn scar, which is enrolled into the state program, and that property has been assessed and is now on schedule for debris removal operations.
Thanks, Tina. Next on the agenda, new figures from CalRecycle's latest State of Disposal and Recycling report. Deputy Director Zoe Heller is here with some highlights. Good morning, Zoe.
Good morning, Maria. So based on the data reported to CalRecycle, the department estimates California generated over 76 million tons of waste in 2021. Of the material generated, we estimate about 16% was exported as recyclables, 12% was recycled or source reduced, and about 12% was recycled into compost, biofuel, or mulch. About 46 million tons of that material went to landfills or other disposal-related activities, which averages at about 6.4 pounds per Californian per day. That left California with a 40% recycling rate for calendar year 2021. Exports of recyclable materials continued to decline, dropping by over 1 million tons between 2020 and 2021. The primary markets for California materials include Canada, Mexico, and the Asian countries that you see listed here on this map. This year, CalRecycle included data on plastic scrap exports to Mexico and Canada via truck and rail. We haven't done this before, so this is new to this year's report. Mexico was the largest importer of scrap plastics from California. Exports of recyclable materials to China have decreased by 95% since 2011. We will be publishing both the report and a couple of new web pages displaying this data later today. Next on the agenda, CalRecycle has published the solicitation for the department's SB 343 Materials Characterization Study. The Truth in Labeling law was passed in 2021 to prohibit false or misleading recycling claims on products. While CalRecycle will not determine the recyclability of products or packaging, the department is required to conduct a material characterization study to see what types of materials and contaminants are coming through select material processing facilities, and publish this information publicly. Be sure to check out our SB 343 webpage linked near the bottom of the CalRecycle homepage. You can sign up there for our listserv and get updates and notifications, including the new request for proposal solicitation for the material characterization study. The proposals are due on January 9th, 2023. And just to remind you of where we are in implementation of SB 343, here's an overview of our timeline. We published the request for proposals for the material characterization study. We expect a contract announcement this winter and fieldwork to begin by the summer. Findings are expected in 2024 as material recovery facilities begin new reporting requirements to CalRecycle. And then the second material characterization study findings will be out in 2027 with additional findings published every 5 years. Switching gears to SB 1383 implementation, CalRecycle's local assistance team continues to conduct calls and site visits to support local progress. Big thank you to everyone who participated in last month's SB 1383 Chat with CalRecycle webinar on November 16th. We discussed the latest tools, guidance, and funding available to assist with local program implementation. And we're excited for our next chat, which will be tomorrow from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. We're holding these webinars each month to answer questions and share how other jurisdictions are implementing their SB 1383 programs. Over $150 million in grants will soon be available for SB 1383 infrastructure investments. The criteria and evaluation process for the latest round of organic grants are linked to today's agenda. The competitive grant program is open to qualifying tribes, local governments, agencies, businesses, and nonprofits. We have $154 million in grants available from the various funding sources, which are outlined on the public notice for this item, and also on the slide that you're looking at now. Given that amount, staff proposes a variety of changes to make the most of this funding opportunity. Some of the changes outlined in the request for approval include increasing the maximum award amounts and establishing 4 project type allocations. CalRecycle proposes $56.5 million dedicated to anaerobic digestion and co-digestion projects, $78 million for composting projects, $15 million for standalone pre-processing projects, and $5 million for in-vessel composting projects. Thank you to everyone who have submitted comments. We received comments from a number of different stakeholders about the proposed criteria, and several concerns were noted, including how the funds were being allocated from the $180 million local assistance allocation for 1383. We very much appreciate these comments, and we feel it's important to put money in this program to increase the needed infrastructure throughout the state. The Organics Grant Program was already in the planning and development stages, and by adding funds to this cycle, this is the quickest way that we can get money out to jurisdictions for infrastructure. We've also made a few other tweaks to the criteria to prioritize rural jurisdictions and to provide clarity on eligible feedstocks for California projects. The scoring criteria and point distribution are linked to today's agenda.
Thanks, Zoe. We have more grant and loan items, but we want to thank everyone who was able to join us for the 5-year tire plan workshop and annual tire conference last month. We have sessions posted on our YouTube page along with this video overview of California's tire program. Take a look.
California produces more than 55 million waste tires a year.
Tires are built to be durable, to be safe for us to drive on.
Up until a few decades ago, piles of illegally dumped tires polluted our state, sometimes catching fire, burning deep inside the pile.
Because tires have such a low ability to transfer heat, once a tire gets hot enough to burn, it becomes difficult to cool down.
In 1998, an employee clearing weeds at a property illegally storing about 7 million tires in San Joaquin County sparked one of the largest tire fires in our nation's history. Large plumes of toxic black smoke from the Tracy tire fire released dangerous chemicals like cyanide and carbon monoxide while it burned for more than 2 years.
It was really a wake-up call to California that something had to be done.
California strengthened its decade-old Tire Recycling Act in 2000 to put waste tires to better use.
Our role is to find new ways to recycle tires to prevent them being illegally dumped or tossed into landfills.
California now tracks the storage and movement of used tires and supports recycling and market development to encourage the use of products made from recycled tires.
CalRecycle has a lot of tire-derived product. We have an online catalog which shows what a waste tire can become.
CalRecycle's Tire Incentive Program provides financial incentives to eligible manufacturers that make new products from old tires.
2 of the products that my team promotes include rubberized asphalt concrete, rag, and tire drive aggregate TDA.
TDA, used as vibration mitigation under light rail, has saved the state millions of dollars while it absorbs sound and allows for a smoother ride through neighborhoods.
With TDA, you are actually solving engineering problems.
Rubberized asphalt concrete blends recycled tires and asphalt to create a more cost-effective, durable, and environmentally friendly alternative to traditional paving materials. Other tire-derived products use ground-up recycled tires mixed with other materials to create products like flooring, roofing, traffic control devices, and pathways.
In a lot of ways, waste tire products can outperform conventional material, and also it could save money.
In 2021, these innovative solutions helped California recycle more than 19 million waste tires, or about 35%, into new recycled products. California has made great strides in finding better uses for tires, but with 16.6% or 9.2 million tires being burned for tire-derived fuel, either within the state or shipped overseas, primarily to Asia, and more than 24 million tires still buried in landfills every year.
That means our work is not completed yet.
There's more work on the road ahead.
And now Zoe Heller has the latest awards from CalRecycle's Rubberized Pavement Grant Program.
25 California communities will receive more than $4.2 million to pave local roads using some of the roughly 51 million waste tires managed in the state each year. The road repair and resurfacing projects will use recycled tires to make rubberized asphalt concrete or rubberized chip seal. Beyond the environmental benefits, turning recycled tires into rubberized pavement makes a better performing, longer lasting road surface. And it also reduces costs for local projects since the material can usually be applied half as thick as conventional asphalt overlays and last up to 50% longer. California kept over 12.2 million waste tires out of our landfills and communities thanks to this grant program, which is funded through a $1.75 fee on the purchase of new tires. If your community is not using rubberized asphalt products, please have your Public Works Department get in touch with us. CalRecycle is reallocating unspent tire program funds from this year's fiscal year to partially fund a rubberized pavement grant project in Manteca. You can read more about this reallocation in the notice linked to today's agenda. You can also read more about the nearly $3 million in new recycling market development zone loans that will create jobs and products from what used to be waste. CalRecycle approved $2.4 million loan for a new owner to purchase Earthworm Soil Factory in Butte Valley. The organics processor will create one job and keep an additional 500 tons of organic waste out of landfills each year as a result of this project. CalRecycle also approved a new $535,000 RMDZ loan to Oxnard Pallet for new machinery. The wooden pallet recycler and remanufacturer is expected to keep an additional 2,000 tons of wood waste out of landfills each year and create 15 new jobs. RMDZ loans are available for California recycling manufacturing businesses that ultimately divert waste materials from California landfills. Since the start of the RMDZ program in 1998, CalRecycle has awarded 218 loans and other assistance to more than 133 local businesses in California. Next on the agenda, more California communities are testing new models for convenient beverage container redemption. CalRecycle received 4 eligible applications for $3.5 million in beverage container pilot project grant funding. Awards include $1 million to Hambro Recycling to set up new services and 2 new buyback kiosks in Humboldt County, $500,000 to Our Planet Recycling to expand San Francisco's pilot project drop-off locations, $1.5 million to Recycle from Home to expand its bottle and can pickup program in the city of Corona, and another $500,000 to Recycle from Home to expand its residential pickup program in Irvine to include businesses. And I have approved these awards.
Thanks, Zoe. Be sure to check out CalRecycle's funding page for current grant and loan opportunities. Funding is available for cleanup programs, beverage container recycling investments, and support for recycling businesses and projects that cut climate and trash pollution. As a quick reminder, you can submit a public comment on an agenda item in 2 ways. If you're here in person, you can use one of our meeting room microphones. If you're joining us remotely, you can submit a comment using the public comments portal. Just go to CalRecycle's homepage and click on the public meeting web banner at the top of our site. There you'll also find a link to today's agenda and the presentation slides and our live webcast. We'll address public comments a little later. We have updates on the rollout of California's stewardship program for sharps and pharmaceuticals. First, check out how new extended producer responsibility requirements are designed to make it easier for consumers to safely manage their unwanted medication and needle waste.
Prescription drugs and home use needles, syringes, and lancets save lives, but too often improper storage and disposal of these sharps and pharmaceuticals cause overdose deaths.
Thousands of Californians die from overdoses each year.
Accidental poisonings.
Children and teenagers get into medicine cabinets where people often stockpile old prescriptions.
Needle stick injuries.
Sanitation workers can be exposed to infectious diseases when they get stuck with needles that were improperly disposed.
And contaminated water.
Wastewater treatment plants are not equipped to process medications that are flushed down the toilet.
To save lives and safeguard our precious water, California made manufacturers responsible for safely managing their products once Californians are done using them.
The 2018 law requires industry to establish, fund, and operate stewardship programs.
With programs in place, Californians will start seeing more collection bins like these at their local pharmacies, hospitals, and other secure public spaces. These bins, along with prepaid mailback options for unused drugs and home-generated sharps, give consumers safe and convenient options to properly discard their medical waste.
If disposal isn't convenient and free and accessible to people, then they may not know how to properly dispose of unused medications or sharps waste.
Strict state oversight ensures industry programs, budgets, and outreach meet California's new requirements.
California was the first state in the nation to pass a stewardship law for both pharmaceuticals and home-generated sharps waste.
A statewide solution complementing a patchwork of local programs to protect our children, safeguard our workers, and keep our water safe to drink by giving consumers safe, free, and convenient ways to discard sharps and pharmaceuticals.
Deputy Director Zoe Heller will now provide an update on implementation of the pharmaceutical and sharps waste stewardship.
Today we have 2 items relating to the pharmaceutical and sharps waste stewardship program for the director's consideration. 1 revised home-generated sharps waste stewardship plan and 1 revised covered drug stewardship plan. CalRecycle staff reviewed the Drug Take-Back Solution Foundation's revised stewardship plans and for home-generated sharps waste and covered drugs, and found that they have met all statutory and regulatory requirements. You can read the staff analysis on these items in the respective public notices linked in today's agenda, and subscribe to CalRecycle's pharmaceutical and sharps listserv to receive further updates. Next on the agenda, there's been recent updates to the Electronic Waste Recycling Act to allow CalRecycle to adjust payment rates every year to help cover the cost of collecting and recycling covered electronic waste discarded by Californians. To assess and potentially adjust these rates, CalRecycle relays in part on annual net cost reports that document revenues and costs from approved collectors and recyclers. A determination at a public meeting is required to trigger these net cost reporting requirements. Therefore, we're announcing CalRecycle's determination that net cost reports are required from approved collectors and approved recyclers in the covered electronic waste recycling program covering operations during 2022. Approved recyclers must report separately the net cost associated with recycling CRT and non-CRT covered electronic waste. Reports are due to CalRecycle on or before March 1st, 2023. This item is delegated to me, and I've approved it. Back over to Maria.
Meeting California's climate and waste reduction goals would not be possible without the hard work of our cities and counties. They're responsible for implementing the local programs to use less, recycle more, and meet state environmental protection standards. CalRecycle is responsible for overseeing how well jurisdictions are implementing these programs. CalRecycle staff does this by conducting site visits, analyzing data, and reviewing jurisdictions' annual reports. The department also has the authority to conduct anytime reviews to make sure cities and counties are in compliance with mandatory commercial recycling and mandatory commercial organics recycling requirements. Deputy Director Zoe Heller will give the results of CalRecycle's latest compliance reviews.
CalRecycle, or California law, requires jurisdictions to implement mandatory commercial recycling and mandatory commercial organics recycling programs. Programs must ensure businesses that generate statutory levels of waste have recycling services or a waiver. CalRecycle must review local jurisdictions' actions to implement its program for good faith effort based on express statutory factors, including, importantly, the number of businesses complying with AB 341 and 1826. One benchmark is clear: all businesses generating statutory levels of waste must have service or a waiver in place. Given that organic waste disposal has more than doubled rather than halved since 2014, and the majority of California's waste originates from commercial sources, it's time for additional measures beyond monitoring and outreach, which have not proven sufficient to achieve compliance statewide. CalRecycle is working with jurisdictions to step up their efforts to account for businesses that are, by law, required to have recycling services or a local waiver. For jurisdictions that have regulated businesses not complying, CalRecycle is moving them farther down the path of enforcement to ensure 100% compliance. While most jurisdictions are implementing these programs to cut climate emissions and landfill disposal, CalRecycle identified program gaps for 6 California communities that are listed in this agenda item and that you can see here on this slide. They are implementing portions of programs, but we're seeing levels of noncompliance and a failure to demonstrate sufficient efforts to make sure all regulated commercial businesses have recycling services or a waiver. You can find a full summary of identified program gaps linked to today's agenda, as well as the jurisdiction's plan to address those gaps moving forward. CalRecycle staff will closely monitor these local programs over the next 6 months. If staff find inadequate progress to implement these plans submitted to CalRecycle or to address the mandatory commercial recycling and mandatory commercial organics recycling gaps, then CalRecycle's jurisdiction and agency compliance and enforcement branch, JACE, will be notified that the jurisdiction should be prioritized for an enforcement evaluation. This item is delegated to me for signing. And finally, CalRecycle is required to review and approve or disapprove each countywide or regional agency integrated waste management plan 5-year review report. Fresno and San Bernardino counties submitted their 5-year report. That concludes no revisions to the planning documents are necessary at this time, and staff concurs. These items were approved.
Thanks, Zoe. Deputy Director Mark DeBee joins us now with items from CalRecycle's Waste Permitting, Compliance, and Mitigation Division. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Maria. Thank you. CalRecycle's solid waste disposal and co-disposal cleanup program assists local governments with cleaning illegal dump sites where a responsible party is either cannot be identified or is unable or unwilling to pay for a timely cleanup of sites. These sites threaten public health and safety and the environment. The cleanup projects are implemented through CalRecycle's managed contracts as well as grants and loans. Today, we're letting everyone know that we're seeking statements of qualifications, or SOQ, for the following proposed contracts. There is going to be 1 contract for engineering services, and then 2 separate contracts for environmental remediation services, 1 for the north and 1 for the southern part of the state. Awards will be based on contractor experience, qualification, and other resources. The SOQs for the engineering services proposal is due on January 10th, and a notice for the SOQs for the remediation services contract will be noticed soon. That's what I have to report on the contracts. And moving on, I'll now pass it to our branch chief, Paulina Lawrence, to talk about solid waste and tire facilities, as well as any emergency waivers. Paulina?
Thank you, Mark. First off, I'd like to start off with those facility permit updates. New to the agenda for this month is Recycling Industries, Inc., located at 4741 Watt Avenue. This is in Sacramento County. This is a new solid waste facilities permit. Action is needed February 13th, 2023. Preliminary review of the permit package indicates the following proposed design parameters. The proposed facility will be a large volume transfer processing facility with a permitted maximum tonnage of 400 tons per day and a permitted traffic volume of 190 vehicles per day. This facility will have a permitted acreage of 7.94 acres, and the facility will be prohibited from accepting green waste and municipal mixed waste from non-source separated collection programs. Next, the department did receive one emergency waiver for this month. This is from Shasta County. It's for Anderson Landfill, Inc. On December 8th, 2022, the Shasta County Division of Environmental Health Local Enforcement Agency granted an emergency waiver of permitted daily tonnage to temporarily increase the tonnage limit from 1,850 tons per day to 6,850 tons per day until March 31st, 2023. This is in order to receive disaster debris resulting from the Mill Mountain and the McKinney fires. Back to you, Maria.
Thanks, Paulina. You can find more information on any of today's agenda items by going to CalRecycle's homepage, calrecycle.ca.gov, and click on the public meeting web banner at the top of our site for a link to the agenda and associated public notices. Now it's time for public comments. We'll start with any comments that anyone here in the meeting room has. Good morning.
Live from Sacramento, Evan Edgar. I'm here for item D1 for the organic grants. What a great program. I was shocked how good it was. Adding all that new money was unbelievable. The industry as a whole is grateful and appreciative of the new money, and the scoring criteria looks good. The blend of public and private is good because we represent public-private partnerships from anaerobic digestion to standalone. So it's a good blend as we look forward to participating in the grant program. One thing that the CARB put out is a report every year, the California Climate Investments, and they take a look back on all the different investments in cap and trade, and this program is the most cost-effective. Compost and anaerobic digestion is at $55 per ton of greenhouse gas avoided. By far the best program. Some of these ZEVs programs, zero emission vehicles, they're funding it at $1,000 to $3,000 per ton of greenhouse gas reduction because they only displacing diesel, where this program is getting methane out of the landfill. And with that, it's a short-lived climate pollutant. So it's a great focus. And the reason it's cost-effective is because we're building on existing infrastructure. We already have the trucks that we have drop-in fuel for RNG with 58 million going towards anaerobic digestion and co-digestion. We have the existing infrastructure. So building upon the circular economy we started 30 years ago, this program doubles down or triples down on our current program. So good work by CalRecycle, great blend. We're looking forward to participation. Thank you.
Thanks, Evan, for your comment.
Are there any other comments in the building? Okay, it looks like not at this time. So we'll move to our public comment portal comments. We have a few that are a little bit lengthier than usual. The first one's from Alex Halou, Assistant General Manager of the City of LA, Sanitation and Environment. The comment is, good morning, my name is Alex Halou, and I'm the Assistant Manager of the City of Los Angeles, Bureau of Sanitation and the Environment. Starting January 2023, all 4 million people in the City of Los Angeles will have their existing organics program expanded from green waste to include food scrap recycling. In addition, LASAN will provide kitchen pails for all 750,000 residential customers so they can collect their food scraps from the kitchen and place it in their green bin for collection. Also, the city has launched multiple farmers markets and compost hubs to provide city residents with a convenient way to recycle food scraps and receive free compost. One of the top priorities of Mayor Bass is to address homelessness and food insecurity in the city. And that's why LASAN is grateful to the support from CalRecycle, especially Director Rachel Wagner, Zoe Heller, and Kara Morgan. The City of Los Angeles prefers that this funding remain with the 1383 Local Assistance Grant Program and the funding not be transferred at this time to the Organics Grant Program. For the City of LA, formula funding made available under the SB 1383 Local Assistance Grant Program is the most immediate and effective way to achieve GHG reductions. AB 179 allocates $180 million to provide grants to local jurisdictions to assist in the implementation of regulations adopted by the Department of Resource Recycling and Recovery, CalRecycle, pursuant to 1383. Of that allocation, staff is proposing that $81 million be directed to the Organics Grant Program. The Organics Grant Program seeks to provide funds to support expansion of the waste management infrastructure, such as composting and digestion facilities, to achieve GHG reductions. At this juncture, the City of LA believes SB 1383 Local Assistance Grant Program offers the flexibility that jurisdictions need to meet state mandates and increase participation in the curbside food scrap recycling programs. State assistance is crucial, and using a population-based funding formula is more appropriate and equitable. Participation levels and procurement under SB 1383 are based on population numbers, which also represent waste generation. Leaving the funding in the SB 1383 Local Assistance Grant Program and using these formulas allows jurisdictions such as the City of Los Angeles to match state assistance funding needs to projects and conducts programs that best serve our residents and the state in meeting its GHG goals. Attaching funding to 4 project types may not provide equitable distribution of available funds. Additionally, if the staff recommendation to move $80 million to the Organics Grant Program cannot be reconsidered, there is a need for the grant cycles to have a time period of 5 years. In this grant cycle, we request the grant term completion date be moved from April 1st, 2026 to April 2028. In municipal government, experience has shown that completing a construction project takes more than 3 years. The public project management process includes project labor agreement transparency using the public process and contractor selection, project team design, specification and review, securing environmental clearances, public education and outreach, and then permits. The current 3-year term from grant award to project completion is not adequate and does not provide accommodation for the time challenges in project delivery. These comments are submitted on behalf of the City of Los Angeles in the interest of our residents who will benefit from implementation of the State Organics Reduction and Local Assistance Program. Thank you. Signed, Alex.
Well, I'd like to thank Alex and the entire department for the very thoughtful comment, and really appreciate the incredible progress that the City of Los Angeles has made over the last 12 months to implement our organics recycling laws, all of them, and then we've seen such incredible progress. I think that the comment related to the organics grants deserves a little contextualization. As we know, that the legislature appropriated $180 million to help local governments bring their 1383 recycling programs up to par, and CalRecycle sees part of our job in allocating and granting those funds as figuring out where the infrastructure and the long-term investments are necessary. We, as we know, are likely to go into one, if not several, budget years that are leaner than the ones that we've seen in the past. And achievement of our 1383 goals and our 1826 goals remains to be a priority for the state. So we need to be looking at each and every one of the dollars that we spend, period, but also within this program, how did we get the best outcomes and the long-term investments that are necessary. So as we are developing the criteria for the local assistance grants for the future, we will be looking for those gaps. As we know, 1383 requires that the state meet a 75% reduction of organic waste landfill below our 2014 baseline by 2025, and we have a real uphill battle in order to achieve that goal. So these investments need to be aimed at achieving that overall statewide goal, and really CalRecycle sees our role in granting those funds as coordinating the greatest need across the state in order to achieve the statutory objective.
Thanks, Rachel. The next comment comes from Jose Ponce from Ponce Recycling, and it regards the processing payment rate. He says the revised PET or PET processing payment rate drop of 70% is very detrimental to all recycling centers. This cannot be overstated. With the new processing rate and with the current price for scrap being so low, we're not going to be able to keep our recycling centers open. We will be forced to shut down. We respectfully ask for help to prevent massive recycling closures.
Can I also address that one, Maria? We do recognize, and I think for those of you who are tracking the beverage container recycling program, that the processing payments, the fluctuations in the scrap value for PET plastic over the last year are somewhat unprecedented. And the department within its jurisdiction over the course of the last year tried to help stabilize with the authority that we are given statutorily to do so. However, it is required by statute that once a year that we make those adjustments. And so we recognize that that adjustment was a major impact to the industry. And unfortunately, as we all know, it is a very prescriptive law, and we do not have any authority at this particular juncture to accommodate the industry at this point. But we would like to continue conversations, and as the new year starts, we do have the authority to re-review on a quarterly basis, and so we will be looking at this payment again in March, and are open to discussions about appropriate adjustments at that juncture.
Thanks, Rachel. The next comment comes from, it says Ansu John, it might be John Ansu, 301 Organics, and it's regarding what is called scoring biases against incentives for compounding carbon sequestration. And this person says, scoring biases, we believe the scoring sheet is too coarse as an evaluation tool to properly adjudicate each of the 4 kinds of project types on their particular merits. A one-size-fits-all scoring metric is inappropriate to assess the value of and beneficial impacts to a local jurisdiction. In a comparison between the industrial scale anaerobic digester and smaller scale locally based food waste recovery projects, in-vessel composting, it is noted each has their own processes, scales, and beneficial outcomes. Ultimately, we believe the Organics Grant Program must emphasize financial assistance to projects that enhance carbon sequestration through the entire life cycle of organics diversion and processing. This would encourage projects that focus on soil amendments and land application, because soil organic amendments increase carbon storage in soil and in plants. Lacking accounting of energy usage in organics processing. As written, the scoring sheet places exaggerated weight on criteria slanted towards larger processors with engineering solutions that skim organics out and deal with it in out-of-sight industrial facilities. For example, it offers 35 points of weight for the tonnage of organics diverted and processed, while offering only 15 points for community benefits in the limited scope of community benefits as written. Higher points for more tons of organics handled. This signals that CalRecycle values gross tons of organics removed via large-scale processors. This simply incentivizes large operators to use scale to achieve cost reductions, just as regular waste haulers do. There is no attempt to address waste source reductions. Hiding energy consumption in organics processing. Sorry. There's no period there, that's the end of the sentence. The scoring sheet equates tonnage of waste diverted with greenhouse gas reductions while omitting accounting of energy consumption associated with industrial scale processing combustion. This allows processors to hide the true energy balance, GHG, of their process. We cannot condone a rating scale that hides energy consumption in processing in a program that purports explicitly to reduce GHG emissions, incentivizing the same model of waste hauling as current undifferentiated waste collection systems. Unfortunately, CalRecycle is doubling down on systems in which ordinary people are not given an opportunity to consider their actions and choices and change them beyond throwing organics into a different colored bin. The organics are made to disappear just as is the rest of the household trash. Out of sight, out of mind. Your incentive structure does not inspire programs to press for a vitally needed, profound goal of organics waste source reduction. Emphasis on permits versus community benefits, and emphasis on permits versus community benefits. We note that the emphasis placed on permits with 25 points reflects a bias towards industrial processing of organics as opposed to community-centered local organics diversion and nutrient cycling systems. Community benefits can include criteria to incentivize as cultural change around waste. We believe that when people directly encounter the end product of their waste processing within their own community, it makes a difference in their consciousness about their consumption patterns. In this, we believe that CalRecycle administrators are overlooking an opportunity to encourage smaller scale systems which encourage households to be more thoughtful about organics waste diversion. Much science is already published on the land application of compost and fertilizer alternatives derived from organics. These include soil nutrition, carbon sequestration increases, water savings, and ecological environmental benefits. Over and above those benefits, a whole system approach to organics waste recycling that is highly visible in communities facilitates people making the connection between their consumption choices and the results of their waste, as well as it promotes greater awareness of soil health and nutrition, which have multiple ripple effects, not least of which are human health benefits. We believe that community-based organics diversion and composting systems based in neighborhood gardens, farmers markets, schools, grocery stores, municipal parks, municipal recreation facilities, and sporting venues have enormous benefits for shifting the needle of public understanding of organic source reductions. These publicly accessible, highly visible, community-embedded sites for organics diversion serve as a marketing point-of-sale prompts, to use a commercial analogy. They create awareness of consumption behaviors and waste generation. The social discussions that ensue from first-hand encounters with organics diversion and recycling end products influences people's behaviors and shifts norms over time. Action items. We ask that you increase the valuation of points under community benefits from 15 to 25. While correspondingly lowering the 25 points allocated for polling permits. We ask that you reduce the 35 points in tons of organic waste or carve out this category specifically for large processors competing against each other in local jurisdiction. This circumvents the problem of smaller in-vessel composting systems competing against large digesters altogether. We ask that you allocate extra points for land application recycling of organics waste. We request you to modify the description of community benefits to explicitly incentivize programs that engage in local, high-visibility organics collection and processing schemes to include community-based composting. We request you to include language that incentivizes the local processing of organic waste diverted on sites interwoven into the civic and municipal infrastructure of local jurisdictions. We further ask that you specifically incentivize and include public education, outreach, student internships, and other engagement that directly augment social awareness of organics and nutrient cycling from organics waste to compost. Yes, I'm
okay.
some water now.
You're good. I just wanted to make sure. And thank you for everyone bearing with us. We wanted to make sure, especially for those who can't attend in person at this juncture, that their comments are fully shared with the group. Really appreciate the comments and the incredibly thoughtful review of the criteria of this particular grant program. As you will note, and many of you who work on organics recycling with the department, we have various different programs for different goals. And while I appreciate the comments related to the criteria, and we will take those back and look at it. I want to make sure that we understand and are balancing against the other grant programs that we have that are aimed at small community-based composting. And part of the reason we have a separate program for community-based composting is very much the comments that were listed by that particular commenter. So we need to make sure that we recognize that on a program of this magnitude and scale for the state of California, that we're going to have to use many different types of solutions and create the incentive for many different types of solutions to be successful. And while I know Mr. Edgar and Mr. Lapis know this about me, I'm a big fan of compost and our Healthy Soils initiatives, and see that as a great goal. I don't believe that we are going to be able to compost 100% of the waste, the organic waste, at least in the near term, that California is creating. So we will take your comments back. Thank you so much. That is incredibly thoughtful review, and we will look at that criteria. But I did want to make sure that we mention that there are a number of different grant programs, from food recovery, which is very much aimed at decreasing at the very top of the source, to our education efforts, to our community composting programs, and then our large-scale organics grants that are meant to go to large-scale infrastructure. So thank you for the comment, and we will review your points.
Thanks, Rachel. The next comment comes from Barbara Romero, Director and General Manager of LA Sanitation and Environment. It's regarding the Organics Grant Program, Cycle 7. She states, at this juncture, we believe SB 1383 Local Assistant Grant Program offers the flexibility that jurisdictions need to meet state mandates and increase participation in burgeoning curbside food scraps recycling programs. State assistance is crucial, and using a population-based funding formula is more appropriate and equitable. Participation levels and procurement are based on population numbers, which also represent waste generation. Leaving the funding in the SB 1383 Local Assistance Grant Program and using those formulas allows for jurisdictions to match state assistance funding needs to projects and conducts programs that best serve our residents and the state in meeting its GHG goals. Attaching funding to four-year project types may not provide equitable distribution of available funds. Additionally, if the staff recommendation to move $81 million to the Organics Grant Program cannot be reconsidered, there is a need for the grant cycles to have a time period of 5 years. In this grant cycle,
Hey, Maria.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I think what we could do is say that Director Romero is a ditto from Alex's comment, just to save a little bit of time. And the response is obviously the same as it was 10 minutes ago, which is we appreciate the comments. We are taking all of these comments into consideration, and that we are very committed to working with local governments and our private partners on using the local assistance grants to further the goals of 1383.
Thank you. The next comment's from Eleanor Crescenzi from the Food Cycle Collective, ECHO FA-RM Initiative, Integrative Development Initiative, and its funding for jurisdictions. Eleanor states, I would like to see more development of the community benefits scoring criteria, such as organizations that truly work with communities or make long-term plans for community health score much higher. These might include multiple partnership, community composting partnerships, local facility development, and community lead designs, etc. Please reach out to me to discuss additional ideas and specific criteria for improving the scoring criteria in this area so that CalRecycle scoring criteria in community benefits areas can begin to match statewide social and environmental justice and public health and engagement goals. The next comment comes from, it just gives the name ART. Organization is Sunset, and it's regarding the processing payment decrease. Art states, how does CalRecycle want us to stay in business if we are paying out of pocket to purchase PET? Come January 1st, I have to pay almost 70% more to purchase and ship out PET loads. Can you please advise how we can sustainably operate like this? At the current moment, I'm already paying out of pocket to ship PET loads. As one solid example, not including anything else, average freight costs $300 to $400. PET scrap price is average 0.04, and processing payment is taking a 70% drop. If I am shipping 1,500 pounds of PET times 4 cents scrap, that is $60, plus the new processing payment of 4.424, which is more than 4 cents, which adds up to $63.6. That is a total of $123.6. This is an amount that is unbearable to continue operations. We actually needed to increase in the processing payments and not drop. We need Director Rachel Wagner and CalRecycle help on this as soon as possible. I don't know how we will be able to purchase PET and stay in business come January 1st with this drop in processing payments. Recycling centers are the backbone of this industry and the hardest working in its class. We do not deserve to suffer like this. There are hundreds of recycling centers on the line, along with thousands of employees risking to lose their jobs overnight come January 1st, 2023. This is a very critical moment in the program, and I really hope something can be done to save the program. Please explain how we can stay in business. Thank you.
Again, we are very aware of the challenges that are associated with the fluctuations in the processing payments for PET over the last 12 months. And as I previously stated to the previous comment, the statute requires us to make the adjustment that we made that will be effective January 1, but we are very interested in continuing conversations with the recycling community on how we can support their work, the importance of plastic recycling here in California, and do that in a way that maintains a very important industry. And as such, we are prepared to make further adjustments come March.
Thanks, Rachel. There's 2 more comments that are similar. One is from Ralph Alcantar from the Story Road Recycling, and just asks that we reconsider current processing payments and points to rising overall costs of workers' compensation, high labor, general liability insurance, freight, and other factors. The 3rd comment comes from someone named Mari from Everyday Recycling on the same topic, and states that this processing payment decrease will negatively affect all recycling centers. The next comment is from Nick Romo from the League of California Cities about the Organics Grant Program, and states that cities are grateful for the critically needed $180 million appropriated in the 2022 Budget Act for SB 1383 local assistance, and stand ready once funding is available to develop and implement effective organic waste recycling programs. In requesting and supporting the appropriation of additional funds, cities anticipated an allocation methodology consistent with the deployment of 1383 local assistance grant program for 21-22. Directing funds to as many communities as possible remains critical to successful implementation. Cal Cities appreciates CalRecycle's attention to these comments, and we look forward to continued partnership. The next comment is from Peter Hong from Bolus Recycling, and it's also about the PET processing payment drop, and states that with this drop that recycling centers will be forced to close, and to request that we please address what's being done to fix this immediately. The next comment was again from Ansu John, or John Ansu, and it's on market value chain logic for organics handling. Do you want me to read this whole one? It's as long as the last one. So, yes, I'll try. Did you want to do that, Zoe, or do you want me to?
Sure. Well, I'll read the first part of it and get into where some of the specific recommendations are. Organic waste handling is a new market value chain, and the limits of that paradigm market value chain logic is stitched into our socioeconomic cultural framework. Each stage of the product life cycle, raw material procurement, fabrication, packaging, storage, transportation, retail, and waste, is an opportunity for market value to be added and for profit to be made. The lower you go in the value chain, the less added value and less profit. Condoning a careless, waste-oriented mindset, the logic of unlimited growth in production and consumption allows for ongoing replenishment of the market value chain. So by throwing things away, you support the drive to purchase more. And then I'm going to get down to discussion of the harmful consequence of the throwaway culture, and the waste and energy consumption and the pollution that result from consumption. Indeed, the impetus of SB 1383 and the Organics Grant Program is to attenuate greenhouse gases like methane from a whole organic waste stream life cycle. With CalRecycle, we find the same market value chain logic underlies the Organic Grant Program incentive structures for organic waste diversion and processing. The product in this particular case is the separation of organics from the waste stream and their processing into another form. The CalRecycle Grant Program asserts that it is seeking to finance projects that process the feedstock into compost, fertilizer, bioenergy, or biofuels, and how the products will be used and marketed. So, I'm going to stop there in reading it because I think Director Wagner acknowledged some of these concerns in her initial response, in that, yes, the Organic Waste Infrastructure Grant Program is intended to develop infrastructure to process organic waste further downstream than some other solutions. And it's why we're investing in some of these other solutions as well, not through this grant program, but through other grant cycles, whether it's food recovery, food waste prevention, community composting, and then education and outreach to encourage less waste overall, particularly as we're achieving our 1383 goals. Our most recent waste characterization study demonstrated that we're still throwing away a lot of organic waste and food waste, and there's opportunity to reduce that at the source before it needs to get recycled or into something new. But in that, where we are and to achieve the 2025 goals, we need to diversify solutions and invest across this value chain, if you will, so that we get to achieving those end goals and, in there, crack the code to the highest and best use of materials. So we really appreciate these comments. They're really important as we're looking at solutions to really look at what are these more systemic solutions and holistic solutions, so that we are getting further upstream to both move us towards a circular economy, but also reduce waste overall.
Thanks, Zoe. The next comment, and there are a few more, they're all shorter, is from Maria Varghese from the city of San Jose. And Ria asks, when does CalRecycle plan to issue the remaining grant funds available for SB 1383 local assistance?
Yeah, it's a good question, since, as you're all aware, the organic infrastructure grants is 80 million of that 180 million. So, we've, through our local assistance, through our 1383 chats that we've been having, and through the comment letters that we've received specific to the 80 million that's been allocated towards infrastructure, we've heard a lot of really good recommendations, suggestions, and asks from stakeholders as to how they'd like us to spend that 100 million that's on the table. As Director Wagner mentioned, we're really looking at, we have this goal to achieve by 2025. What needs to happen with our investments now to get us there, and how can we best support locals in doing that? So we have a lot of really great recommendations. While we don't have a timeline right now, we're considering them and designing a program that we'll bring to you at an upcoming public meeting that will address the remaining 100 million that's still on the table for local assistance.
Thanks. The next question is from Shirley Ferrix, Waste Not, Nevada County, and addresses the need for plastic reprocessing facilities. What is CalRecycle doing to attract plastic reprocessing facilities? This is a major solution to the tsunami of plastic that seems unstoppable. There are 2 chemical recycling plants on the East Coast. Not that chemical recycling is the answer, but it's something that the chemical industry can get behind. What are the alternatives, and can we get that going in California? We ask people to recycle plastics knowing full well most of it has nowhere to go except to the landfills, where it gives off methane. Let's be honest and get a better reprocessing alternative going. Reduction is nearly impossible at a large enough scale to make a difference. What is CalRecycle doing?
Well, thank you, Shirley, for that question, and appreciate highlighting in a very succinct way the challenges associated with plastics. And as we know, the legislature passed and the governor signed SB 54 this year that will have a major impact on how California deals with plastic and plastic packaging. Really, one of the innovations in SB 54, as well as in 1383, but what we are really starting to see as a focus in the changes to our statute is really a reduction in overall source of materials entering into the waste stream in the first place. So as we embark in the new year on implementation of SB 54, I think we will see a lot of changes to how plastic is handled in California, and those discussions will be starting shortly after the first of the year. More immediately, though, on the question of remanufacturing, we really would like to hear more from those companies that are innovating in the space of recycling and remanufacturing, and would like to invite them to come talk to us here in California. Maybe not specific technologies, but how do we actually get plastics back into the market, much like the bottle-to-bottle recycling that we are focused on in the beverage container recycling program and implementation of our minimum content standards. We would like to see that across the board. And as such, the legislature appropriated additional money to our RMDZ program last year and really opened up some of the criteria to applying to that money. So we are very interested in working with our private partners to figure out how to address this particular issue in the context of plastics, but all materials. And as we implement the many new pieces of legislation that the legislature has passed over the last 2 years, this question becomes ever present in all of our materials implementation.
Thanks, Rachel. The next question comes from David Sanchez from Basic Fibers and says, can you guys use the emergency funding to offset the price drop from processing payments until we find a better solution? I think the funding that came through in the last budget.
That wouldn't be emergency. So, David, thank you for your question. I would recommend that you reach out to the department to have this discussion. Perhaps reach out to Deputy Director Amy Cameron or her shop. I don't know what emergency funding you are referring to. We do not have emergency funding per se, so please reach out and we can have a further discussion, but I have not identified any additional funds that would be eligible for this, and given the parameters set in statute, I don't believe that we have the authority to provide additional funding to offset for the processing payments.
Thank you. So the next 2 comments came from Peter Hong at Bolos Recycling again, and the first one just points out the 70% slash in processing payments being problematic, and then the next, his next comment states that just asks if there is emergency funding available, and hopes that the centers will not survive, or fears that the centers will not survive the 3 months waiting for this payment to be reevaluated. The next question comes from L.W. Lang, Upper Room Consulting, on the processing payments again, and the recyclers were notified their processing payments would drop by 1/3. And this commenter also states that this threatens the existence of recycling networks. Then additionally, there's a comment from Star Recycling that also asks to review the formula for processing payment fees. And then there's another comment from L.W. Lang from Upper Room Consulting that states CalRecycle's 2022 rulemaking calendar identifies 26 items requiring new regulations. The department accepted 2 of my rulemaking petitions. So far this year, the department has not begun any of these items. When will any rulemaking begin? When will rulemaking begin for prepayment controls that the auditor recommended in 2014?
Thank you, Mr. Lang, for your question and comment. As previously stated, the statute dictates how the department handles processing payments. Again, we recognize with all of the comments made on this, the strain that this has put on the recycling system. And I would further note that, yes, it was a significant drop when we did the review, but our hope was that by stabilizing it over the past 12 months, as opposed to making continuous drops in the fall, the summer and fall, that we were able to help the industry stave off some of the detriment that they are saying that they are experiencing. So we recognize the challenges this is creating for the industry, and are interested in having a conversation about why this volatility happened in the first place over the last year, and what is being experienced. In terms of the rulemaking question, CalRecycle publishes a rulemaking calendar. As many of you know, we have many rulemaking packages coming up this year, and are working on that calendar as we speak.
Thank you. And then the final comment comes from Oscar Pinzone. It was submitted on November 27th, but was designated for the public meeting. The Oscar is from 2M Inversiones Ambientales SAS, and it's on waste and production surpluses of paper and cardboard and their facilities. Currently working on reducing part of cardboard facilities' waste disposed in landfills, plastic contaminated with impurities, scrap, cellulose, textiles, etc., coming out of the pulper process. We use those surpluses to produce recycled plastic wood. I will be in Los Angeles in December, and would love to show you what this project is about, that reduce the waste of production processed by recycled cardboard, helping not just those companies, but state waste management goals, protecting California's environment and climate by reusing and recycling California resources. We currently work in Colombia, and our plant production capacity is 4,500 tons per year. Looking forward to expanding our business model abroad. And our staff commented that our business assistance lead, Frank Severson, will reach out to you to learn more about your project and provide you with a full suite of state incentives and assistance. And that is it for the comments today. So we appreciate everyone sticking with us while we made sure that we included all voices in today's meeting.
Evan,
another comment? Go ahead.
Evan Edgar, engineer for the California Compost Coalition. This is on item C1 about the state of recycling. So Director Wagner, Deputy Director, the state of recycling is mixed. It's kind of like the dirty secret of California, because we made all the other goals on greenhouse gas reductions. We made the 2020 goal. On the RPS, Renewable Portfolio Standard, we made 33% by 2020. The low carbon fuel standard, we have 10% less carbon in fuels in 2020. We're supposed to be at 75% in 2020, and we're only at 40%. And that's not good news. And as a whole, with the mixed messages we get from CARB on the scoping plan, it was the waste sector was only mentioned once in the whole scoping plan. And that's too bad. And then on mixed paper, it's good news is that we can't export it to China anymore. And mixed recycling and mixed organics are up. So we have a lot of moving parts here. And today we have the state of recycling report, but we haven't been able to see it. And each and every year I stand up here for the last couple of years or on Zoom saying, let's have a process to look at the state of the recycling report. Let's have some input. Not making 75% should be a big deal. And I waited till the other public comments, and nobody really said a word about it with regards to being at 40%. I wanted to, where's the Sierra Club, or where are the environmental justice committees? Where is everybody on not making 75%? I modeled that in a paper 18 months ago. I did the net zero greenhouse gas report, where we looked at what does it take to get to 75% with regards to tons, and what type of tons. CalRecycle should be doing that. Back in 2012, there was a 75% report by Director Carol Mortensen. What does it take to get 75%, and what type of tons? And it was a good public process. I gave a copy of the report to Zoe a couple days ago. And that type of report should be back out again. You should have a public process and a meeting on what does it take to get to 75%. Everybody's busy doing 1383. My firm is busy doing 1383. Great chat rooms on 1383. But that action should not take away from the visions and hope of making 75% someday. How do we get there? There is no roadmap for it. I prepared a roadmap 18 months ago and tried to work with staff on it with regards to the tonnages and net zero greenhouse gases and modeling. And in the past, CalRecycle had modeled greenhouse gases. In a 2013 bottle bill, he talked about the benefits of greenhouse gases reduction in the bottle bill program. In the 2012 report, you guys modeled the greenhouse gas reductions by making 75%, about 20 to 30 million metric tons reduced. It's a big deal. Plus, every year I bring up for the last 5 years about wood waste. Wood waste is the #2 waste stream. I'm not sure what the state of recycling says on it. I'll look at it later on. But there is no plan for wood waste. We're being crowded out by the forest sector at the current biomass plants, all-line biomass plants. We're trying to get permitted the new biomass plants. We don't get any funding here for bioenergy, and California Energy Commission cut us off. But under the 3 megawatt biomass program, we're setting those up, but we can't get interconnection from PG&E. Chipping and grinding is not a market. Somehow, when we take wood waste and we chip and grind it, it says it's a market. It's not. We tried to sponsor a bill the last 3 years to kind of look at the state of organics from the urban, forest, and ag sector, and that didn't work. So I'm looking forward to reading the state of recycling about the wood waste. And so if there's anything we can do is maybe in early 2023 have a workshop on how do we get to 75%. I haven't seen it from this administration yet. It's a critical path to get there. I've done the math. I provided the documentation with your own data. There's some big disconnect here. And being at 40% in 2021 is not acceptable, because we're out in the industry of public-private partnerships doing it. We appreciate all the grants and assistance, but there should be an answer to why we're not at 75%. And I haven't seen that. I haven't seen a roadmap to get there. I look forward to 2023. Thank you.
Mr. Edgar, we look forward to 2023 as well, and I really appreciate that suggestion, and we will take that back. I think that is a really helpful suggestion. And I think, as we are very focused, as you mentioned, on implementation of 1383, and so many of us are very focused, it will be important for us to review where are we and what is it going to take, especially given what we're seeing in the state of disposal and recycling report. So I think that is a great suggestion. We'll take that back. And in the early part of the year, would like to schedule something that's like that. So thank you so much for the suggestion.
I think that's it for our comments. And I wanted to thank everyone who participated in the public meeting today. We hope you enjoy the new format designed to make communication accessible, inclusive, and as relevant as possible. We welcome your feedback through the public comment portal. And additionally, we wanted to let you know that our state of disposal report has been published and is available under our homepage, calrecycle.ca.gov, under news. Go to the drop-down menu and select publications. It's the first publication. So we welcome your feedback through the public comment portal, and we hope you have a great rest of your morning and enjoy the rest of the holiday season and year. We will see you next month.
I actually just want to make one more comment. I just do want to truly thank everybody who participated today online and in person, and echo the wish for a very happy holiday season and a very safe and warm new year. We look forward to working with all of you in 2023 in the implementation of all of our current programs, and then in embarking on some important new programs that will hopefully really truly drive us to achieve the goals that have been previously set out and all of our new goals around waste reduction, pollution reduction, and having a massive impact on the fight against climate change. So thank you, all of you, for your continued partnership, and we look forward to working with you in the new year. There will be additional information on workshops on a number of our new programs coming out in January, and so we look forward to working with you, and just stay tuned. Thanks so much.